Hello, everybody, and welcome to Plague Pals. I think I have a touch of the plague. I am Bill Corbett. Hello, Maura.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. Maura Quint here. And Maura, you are not in your usual spot.
I am not. I did not pick out this painting on the wall. I don't approve of it either. It's
We will run a little Chiron underneath it when my big tech team gets on it afterwards in
oh yes,
post, which always
absolutely.
happens. And they will say Maura does not like this painting.
Thumbs down. Would
Thumbs
not
down.
buy. I mean, no offense to the painter, I
I can't
guess. I'm
even
sure
really
they.
see it. It's kind of got a glare on it. So,
That's better.
but
Like as soon as the glare is painted in,
it's not something I'm dying to know.
you're
Um,
missing nothing. Absolutely nothing.
where are you?
I am in the Poconos, the Pocono Mountains, in lovely upstate Pennsylvania, if that's a thing. Um,
Yeah, is
it's
that a thing?
I don't know. I mean,
You
I think
call
I
it
was just
upstate?
appropriating New York, really,
Yeah.
there. I just full on took it because I wanted to be more like the New Yorkers, but I don't
Yeah.
think we ever say upstate in Pennsylvania. It sounds nice. It sounds like kind of fancy or something. It sounds like country homes, and I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, part of it might be that Pennsylvania is so just so latitudinal. Yeah, I think of it more
There's no up. Yeah,
east and west, and like
that's right.
that's not much of it. But
Yeah.
anyway, Pocono Mountains, as I told you yesterday, my family used to vacation there.
Yes.
Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, a more romantic name I cannot imagine. Stroudsburg.
Stroudsburg is where I
Yes.
am. Although
Uh,
East Stroudsburg, I don't actually
well,
know
yeah,
if
we
that
never went to East Stroudsburg.
you were a
No,
West
I
Side
don't.
only kind of
I really
guy.
don't
I
remember. We
gotcha.
were actually like 10 miles outside of Stroudsburg. And the only, we went there for a bunch of years when I was a kid. And the only thing I really remember or really looked forward to, besides going into the pool and maybe a little bit of
Hmm.
like inner tubes down a river, which was kind of really fun,
Yeah.
was catching turtles. And that's
Oh,
about it. That's all I wanted to. As a Brooklyn kid, like the fact that wild animals existed outside of pet stores or parks and could be reptiles was kind of amazing.
I remember the first time, for whatever, I don't know what it was in high school, but like a New York team came to us in Pennsylvania for something. And I remember being around these kids, and like two of them were like, "That's a real cow." They were like blown away at the idea of cows actually existing in the
Yeah.
world and not just like on a milk carton, I guess. But yeah, it's a big deal. It happens just outside of the city. There's
Yep.
some animals. They're all basically just rats, though. You guys know rats, so it's just the
We do
same
know
in various
rats.
sizes.
I actually remember my friends and I once caught a rat and
Okay.
caught a rat and put it in a box. And we were just dumb young kids. And we liked all animals and brought it, thankfully, not in the house, but like outside the house. And I was going to ask my mom if we could keep it. And she was like, Jesus. She just shrieked. I think we even named it something cute. It was like, no, it's a rat. Get rid of it.
Cutesy
Um,
McWhisker face.
yeah,
Put
little
a little hat
whiskers.
on him and like a little
Hi,
thing.
guys.
Yeah, and just, cuddle up with the plague right
I
there.
remember.
Just a little bit of
Let's get
fluffy.
bubonic.
It's so adorable. That's
Uh,
probably how it spread in the medieval ages. It was just kids being like,
Dumb
I
kids
love
like
it,
me, dumb Brooklyn
my
kids,
friend.
the London equivalent of that.
Wiped out a city. You were so close. If your
it's
mom hadn't known, you guys could have started something there, something that we
it's
currently
one of
have.
those things I look back on in my childhood and go like, that really happened. That's sort of surreal to me now. And there's one other thing like that that I remember that my brother confirmed pretty recently that happened, which is a sewer exploding not far from us, and us being not too far away. We were playing in the streets, and like a sewer cap just exploded and went up like 15, 20 feet in the air and came down, and they were, and I thought I had kind of made it up in some fever dream, but he said, no, that happened. That was like some kind of weird gas main thing.
In my head, when that happened, all the rats just ran out of the sewer and like
Yes.
came to you, like they heard you were the house that took
Right.
in rats. Like, get there! They'll love us. They'll take us in. They've got cheese. It's a whole thing.
I don't want to
Go!
live with explosions. Can we live with you guys? Yeah, that's
Oh, you're never going to convince me that you didn't have like just a rescue rat home growing up. I'm sorry. That's all I'm
that's
ever
my
going to
life
see.
goals. That's my senior plans. Rat rescuer.
I
So speaking of
necessary.
plagues and plague adjacent things, how was your week in Plagueness?
My week in Plagueness. I like that. That's a good. When we get the graphics person too, we can like throw that up on the screen there. My week in Plagueness has been just delightful. Actually, it's fascinating because I'm only 2 hours away from where I am normally now. I'm in
Yeah.
Harrisburg area, and here, like the Poconos are, I guess, where people from New York come. So being here, everyone is like got the mask on.
Hmm.
Everyone's like, and it's signs everywhere. Stuff is shut down. Like, not everything is open. It is like serious. Like they actually care, or they seem to, or they're pretending to care. And that was 2 hours away in Harrisburg, not the case. Everyone's acting like suddenly like it's over, right? Like the plague's over.
Yeah.
It's all good. Everybody's just fine. Like, let's go out to a restaurant, which has been getting to me because people are like inviting me back out to stuff and like having meetings and like doing things in person, which is going to make me explode. I'm going crazy. Like,
Yeah, it is. I am torn. I asked you out of self-interest because we're at this time of year where I usually take our kids, just me and the kids, because Virginia works and she frankly enjoys a couple of days away to have the
I
house to
understand.
herself.
Yeah.
Um, so I usually take them on some kind of a summer trip, either locally or occasionally we visit family.
Hmm.
And we did it last year. And so there's so little for them to do this year, so little for them to, for me to do to enjoy summer, that I thought, can we do some version of this or not? Like, do I trust the places that we would go
Yeah.
to, even if they are, just larded with COVID, what we're doing for COVID? Like, we were looking at this, basically a resort we went last year, just like a bunch of cabins,
Hmm.
and has a pool. Like, this is just basic summer stuff, and my kids really kind of need something. I
Yeah.
feel bad for them. They've been cooped up since March basically. um, and so I looked on the website, and this place is like what we're doing, and it all sounds good in practice, but it just feels like all you need is a critical mass of dum-dums, or people who have gotten militant about this to make it unpleasant. So
Yeah. Well, did you see the video the other day of the like fight in the, I think it was a Texas restaurant bar that broke out because people were, this couple was wearing their masks and another couple was like getting in their faces, and they were asking them to back up. And of course, the maskless people weren't, and started even like the woman was like poking the woman. It was really ridiculous. And it full on turned into a brawl, which, I mean, fair enough. Like it was a
yeah.
self-defense kind of thing. But it doesn't take too many of those types of absolute, I don't know, pieces of shit. Like, I don't know what else to call them. Like plague rats, I suppose, like just to be out there.
Rats are nice. I think we established that at the beginning of the
That's
podcast.
true.
Rats
That's
are our
true.
friends. They don't
Well,
mean to spread plague.
that's
They'd rather
true.
just hang out with you. No, but yeah, the I don't know that I saw that specific video, but I've seen plenty of
Mm,
other, people freaking out at Trader Joe's and throwing their
right.
groceries all over the place. And
Which I love. That temper tantrum is hilarious to me. I mean, it's disgusting and vile, and then hilarious.
it's toddler level shit. I mean,
Hmm.
so, like, I don't know what to make of the fact that this country, it seems uniquely, has decided to make an issue of the mask thing. It does feel like, well, we had enough um, assholes at the top, including the main man in the White House, just making a big deal of it, and deciding to frame it as an issue of weakness or patriotism or all
Right.
toxic shit that usually gets dragged along with that. And so now a bunch of people have just gone to their dumb lizard brains and decided, mask equals weakness and I'm not weak, and notably men, although there are plenty of Karen-y characters, who've been recorded. It does feel like a lot of dudes feel like if I put on a mask, it means that I'm gay, or it means I've got no
Yeah.
balls, or I didn't serve in the military or something. It's just like fucking dumb level stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And it's very like, it's so stupid. It's so like, the most ridiculous thing about it is how easy it would have been to make it like the toughest thing you can do. Like, just how much these people will like use any justification and will like happily follow that kind of lead, that if there was just a like John Wayne asshole figure that they all adored who was just like only losers don't wear masks, partner, like some stupid thing like that, they'd all be wearing like MAGA masks, or like I don't know what, a sports car pissing on a, I don't know, a bike, like they would have all of their branded stuff and be really like tough about it. And
Yeah.
then we have Trump, who,
Well, it's weird now that I mean, he's always going to be a holdout. Like he'll always go to the most toxic, most ridiculous, most transgressive shit possible
mhm,
for an old man like him, frankly. But it does seem like some of the Republicans I've just noticed in the last few days are getting a little more on board with it. I mean, of all people, fucking Mitch McConnell, the turtle demon himself, and he's more evil or more dangerous than Trump
oh
probably in
yeah,
aggregate. But he is basically coming out and saying, no, it's very important that we do this, because I think he sees voters just little by little peeling off. So it's always very
there.
self-interested with
I
those
mean, peeling off slash dying. Like,
guys.
there's a point at
It's
which
true.
you can't kill off any more of the actual people voting for you before
Right.
you've stacked the deck against yourself.
That is your
So
core demographic, dudes. Like,
that's it.
doesn't get
You're
any more on the nose than that.
you're killing your people. Like, who's gonna show up? I'm
I think
sorry.
I think it is balanced by the fact that it is killing more Black people. They do like that,
Oh yeah, definitely.
uh,
They definitely do, but
and
it's
I have
also
no
killing more
compunction
old
saying
people.
that. Like just like to Trump and the most lizard brain
Oh my
creeps
gosh.
among them. That is a feature, not a bug.
Oh yeah, the Trump today was talking about putting Black Lives Matter on I don't know, Park Avenue or something, or Fifth Avenue, or one of the New York streets, was gonna like ruin the street basically, and bring down the value, and whatever stupid racist shit he said. They not hiding it at all. Don't care to hide it. Like they want it loud and
White power,
proud. Yeah, white power. Straightforward. They should just get rid of Make America Great Again. They should just use that as their
white
slogan.
power. Just go for it, man. Just
Yeah, what are
do
you
it.
doing?
I mean,
Right.
that has always been the coded meaning behind Make America Great Again. I mean, there was no
Right.
fictional golden shining city on a hill that was not all white in their mind.
But
Um,
just in case a few other people didn't quite get it, like
right.
weren't that quick, needed the extra boost, just go all in. Go ahead.
Say the quiet part out louder, even
That's
louder.
right.
Okay.
Red hats, replace them with white hoods. Be like,
Right.
just deliberate in your
Yep.
choices. It's basic TV, really. Don't muddle it for people. Trump should
The,
know
uh,
that.
the complexity of the situation, though, is not, I don't think, is lost on a lot of people. Like, I feel angry that we're still doing this, the masks and all that,
Yeah.
while understanding that, this, even with the best of people in there, even with the best theoretical statespeople running the country and running our local governments, this would have been a hell of a challenge. And you would have had people mad at you no matter what you
Oh
did.
yeah.
There was no winning this on some level. There was mitigation and then building back. But we have the worst people. We have the absolute fucking worst people. I mean, we have some good ones or some okay ones here and there on local levels, but in charge of
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing, the absolute worst. So
No.
what we did was say, everybody go home and lock up, and we're going to do nothing. We're going to do nothing for a couple of months.
We're all just gonna put our hands in our ears and shut our eyes really tight, and
And
then
then we're
it's
going to
gonna
go,
be
it's cool
better.
again. Come on out, open your restaurants. And now all these places are, of course, reclosing. Texas,
Right.
California. What happened there? I don't,
Yeah, that one was bad. You'd think that because they seem to have it better under control, and people seem to be doing a better job. I
I
don't know, being
genuinely
thoughtful,
don't know
but
what happened there. And I
I
didn't
don't
really
either.
think to look into it, but it's like you can't just blame Republicans at a certain point, you know?
No, I don't know what was happening there either. Sorry, there's like,
That's all right.
it's a whole house, it's madness, you know.
Understood. If we
It,
have a guest star go behind you, then so be it.
it's
We'll
gonna
ask we'll
happen,
ask
I'm
them their
sure.
opinion.
You know, it was like real quiet and perfect up until the moment we decided to do this. And then it was like an invitation to, I don't know if you hear the screaming.
Special, yeah, I hear special guest star baby.
Yeah, no, really trying to impart the just terror of everything that's happening around us, but like bringing that here,
Yeah,
adding in the sound effects and the screaming. And it's just, you know,
the
making it a little
ambient,
more
the ambient fear and panic
how I'm feeling inside all the time. We're now hearing. That's my
externalized.
constant. Yeah, it's just coming out around me. No, but for California, I don't know what happened, but I do know in speaking with really dumb anecdotal level stuff that is incredibly unhelpful. But in speaking with friends there, from day one, they were saying like the parks were still crowded. Like
Mm.
anytime anything was available, it was massed with people, and they would shut something down and the people would pop up elsewhere. So, you know, I don't know how well in as a whole people were doing with staying away.
It's difficult. I mean, I lived in LA for a while. I know you did too, and it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine this about New York City too, just shutting down there because
Yeah.
it's dense. You know, you don't really have a lot of room as a rule in your dwelling
Mm-hmm.
unless you live in a Brentwood mansion. But for the most
And then
part,
you think you don't have a lot of room,
right,
even if
then
you have
you
more than everyone else.
right,
It's,
right.
ugh,
The LA version of the St. Louis Bonnie and Clyde gun couple we saw the other day.
oh God.
Uh, but it does feel like there are no good choices for people like that because you can go
There
mad
aren't.
in your own house,
Mm-hmm.
maybe with way too little space, and just driving each other crazy. A lot of people are in situations that aren't the best to begin with.
Right.
So like we were saying, there was no kind of winning this, and for some areas it was going to be more challenging than others, and
Mm-hmm.
wherever there were a lot of people on top of each other, that was going to be the most challenging, I would think. um, but the things that didn't happen to kind of get this started at least was mass testing, of
Mm-hmm.
freely available. I know it's it's a cardinal sin in America if somebody doesn't get rich off somebody else's immiseration, but there you go. Like that, we needed that, and nobody stepped up. Certainly not the Republicans, and definitely not the Democrats either. Really, it was like where it's going to be free. And it's like it wasn't. It just wasn't.
Right. Right. It wasn't, and it wasn't widely
Nobody
available.
did shit to make it free either.
Mm-mm. No, absolutely not. And then you have people who, you know, they can't pay their bills, and there's not, no one's giving bill relief. No one's giving any sort of like free healthcare or other types of reason, you know, things that are going to allow people to stay home. Um, and regardless of how dangerous someone's job was, they were compelled to, otherwise they weren't going to be getting unemployment per se. And I mean, there were like so many different reasons that people couldn't do anything else, and understandably they're pissed off and frustrated and want this all to just be over with because there's no good choices.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't have to be that way. It just has never had to be that way.
Never
But
had to be that way. And of course, we measure by the most evil people, um, who were never going to do anything for anybody. But then, we have this is a frequent theme of our talks together. Like the good guys didn't come rushing in like the cavalry and make it.
right.
And of course they can't with their electoral numbers, but you can force issues again and again and then tell people you're forcing the issue instead of like, yeah, waiting 6 to 8 weeks and hanging out and then just, and not really
Hmm.
meeting. Like the House of Representatives, a very powerful holder of the purse strings in Washington.
It's okay though. We're in July now. They're all going on recess. They need
Yeah.
some time to sit, and I don't think the Senate's coming back till the end of July. This is good. Give them a little bit of break. I'm sure they'll come back refreshed and ready to do something.
They're
I'm
gonna give us a
sure.
couple of good memes in the meantime, I'll bet, about,
Oh yeah.
turning their head when they see a Trump banner or something like that. It's gonna really inspire us all.
I'm so excited.
Uh,
July is a good time for eating ice cream, so who knows how much they have. I can't
uh,
wait to find out. It's awful.
it was
Yeah, no,
gonna
we're
it was gonna be awful no matter
mhm.
what, but it's 10 times more awful because now we have other countries to compare it to, and all
Yeah.
these other countries are not even the most enlightened or the best by a long shot. New Zealand, the
Hmm.
gold standard, pretty much got rid of
Oh.
their problem. Um, Good old Hobbiton.
Lovely, lovely imaginary New Zealand. I
Yes.
love it so. It's just a
I
dream.
think it's a real place.
It's not a real
Okay.
place. It's not.
But their elf princess, imagine in their imaginary land, seems to have really managed it about as well as you can. And even with all the variables that are, that disadvantage the United States, like nobody tried, and
No.
there is there are a bunch of people getting evicted now because they couldn't work or they got laid off, and it's just like thing
I know.
after thing just snowballs and makes
And
it.
we have the CARES Act is all now set to expire. All of the few good things that were done. So that $600 in extended unemployment insurance, that is ending at the end of July. And
Well, they could probably live off that 600 for the next year or two. Come on, don't be
it's gonna
greedy.
be gone. They're not getting it. It's done. They're done. If they paid their bills, good for them. Now figure something else out. We are like actively taking away any sort of incentives for people to continue to try and contain this in any way. So
Yeah.
without Fauci, I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name,
Wait.
but
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, when he was saying we're going to be at 100,000 of deaths a day,
Oh, Fauci. Yeah, yeah.
Fauci, I'm like, yeah, I can see how that's going to happen. It's pretty straightforward. People are desperate in lots of ways, and we're going to force them to be desperate in one way so that it makes everything worse. And it's, yeah, no big deal.
Which is why that as much as I don't have much sympathy for the anti-mask militants, on some level I kind of feel like, well, that is not the final boss of blame here in any way.
No,
We got
no.
into this horrible situation where um, I wear masks when I go out. I mean, I follow the basic rules whenever I go inside a building,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm going to be outside with a lot of people near me, which is basically been never so far. But
Right,
when I go grocery shopping, it's a pretty easy
right.
decision to make. Yes, of course. And then there are the 20 to 30% of people walking around who don't, who I'm just like, come on, man, let's take one for the team together. But but the whole thing about mask or not is not really the point. I mean, it's become the point because it's the only battleground we've been allowed. But the real
Right.
the real decisions that were made around this thing from people in power is what got us into this more dire situation.
Yeah. No, you're right. But this is the only fight we've been allowed is absolutely correct. Like, this is where it's playing out because we should have been fighting over exactly how much money we're giving everybody each month. Like, we should have been fighting over things that were actually going to be beneficial. And then we can yell about the details of them or whatever. And like, no, I say that we should only be giving it to people making under 500,000 a year. Like, even that, even if we were just fighting on means testing it, would be a better place than we are
Mm.
now. And everything has been sort of, you're not getting any of it. We're not going to do anything for you. So yeah, now it's just like, all right, fine.
Yeah, now
Fuck
it's
you.
a
Gonna
now
wear my
it's
mask or
a I
fuck you, I'm
hate to
not.
use this I hate to use this term because it's used by a lot of people on the right who I do not care for, but it has become a
Okay, Tucker, go ahead.
You get out the old bow tie and put on a
Uh-huh.
layer of smug on my face.
Look
No, it
very
is.
confused. Yeah,
Just make your face look like a puckered asshole, and you can't go
that's
too
right. Like
far
a
wrong.
dog who doesn't know where that smell came from. Very like, yeah.
But I mean, it is sort of the worst version of virtue signaling when our leaders can, like, the thing that they can mostly bang on about, like even our sensible allies, Democrats, are wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, because it is very easy to parade around wearing a mask for them.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them look good. It makes them look responsible. They can say stuff about science, but it doesn't cost any of their donors a fucking thing. Like, it
Stuff
does.
about science. I just like
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it is not, it doesn't nick their, their money base in the least. And that is where the
Mm-mm.
rubber always hits the road. Whenever there's like money to be spent on this thing or that thing, real money,
Right.
that's when there'll be nowhere to be found. But if it's time to kneel or put on a mask or to, you know, I don't know, do some silly meme, we got you covered.
Well, sure, because ultimately they're all very comfortable in the like personal responsibility place. You wearing a mask, that's gonna change everything. That's all we need to do. Like, it's the same sort of thing as if you just recycle your soda cans, the earth will be saved. Like, it's that idea of
Yep.
we don't actually have to do anything. Everyone's gonna model good behavior, and somehow that's going to negate like all of the other actual shit that needs to be done. We'll just take all of the spotlight off of that and place it on you as a person, and then you can decide if you feel good or feel bad, and that will keep you from ever questioning what we're doing, because you'll be all wrapped up in your own sense of like personal pride or outrage or whatever you're feeling about your actions or your neighbor's actions. It's like just the trick they use over and over to completely
That's
avoid.
really well put. I mean, because then it becomes a matter of self-identification. Like, you are
Mm-hmm.
very proud of being a person who wears a mask. You're very proud of somebody who uses the correct terms for things. And I'm not
Right.
saying these things are not good, objectively in and of themselves, but they're the easiest low-hanging fruit to show that you're a good person.
Right.
And like you said, they are private choices. Those are the private choices they throw on us, and their public power, which they have a lot of, not being exercised. Hello back there.
Hey, mom. Mom, you're in this now, so you might as well say hello.
Hello,
Hello,
everybody. I'm
Mom.
There you
sorry, I didn't
go.
Special
realize
guest
that.
star. Nice to see you.
Okay.
Taking the boys to the winery.
Okay, great. If you didn't hear that, she's taking the boys to the winery. These are
All
children.
right.
Yeah.
Lucky,
Personal
lucky boy.
choices.
Um, you don't get to go to the winery?
I'm doing this.
Okay.
I prioritize other people over going to a winery with a
And
6-year-old,
getting
8-year-old.
your young son's drunk. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's me. That's
You're
who
virtue
I
signaling
am.
like crazy right now, Maura.
That's right. That is absolutely
I
right.
love how
I
you
think you should be 10 before you're, chugging a Chardonnay there. That's just the sort of person I am. I don't know. You do you.
I love that you could hear the whole process, which is so familiar in my house. Door closing, garage going up, car starting up.
Yeah, and they'll be screaming too because there's, 2 cars, enough people. Speaking of personal choices, I do want to say in my virtue signaling way, I'm only with my family. We all got tested before coming
Oh
so that
yeah,
we
yeah,
were
yeah.
making just, because you and I had that
Right,
conversation, but people watching as I'm sitting here talking about distancing and masks, and there's
right.
just people all around me.
I don't want to pretend that it is some easy thing for people, especially now that we're in month whatever 3 or 4
Yeah,
of this.
4,
Like,
yeah.
my kids, and I really mean it, like, they've been good soldiers throughout this, and it has sucked for them, and it has sucked
Hmm.
for everybody, to say the least. But they they're teenagers. They need some kind of social life that's not their parents. And so
Yeah,
we're looking for ways to work that in. Like they had a couple of their friends over who have all, their families have all been tested, but
right.
it's not easy. Like we can't live in isolation. And the thing that that puts it in more danger of continuing is the lack of action, of real action from our, faithful leaders. And even maybe if they even did the best things, we'd still be basically where we are now. But right now it just feels like there's no hope of things getting better, because we're just going to
Yeah.
keep circling around this thing. And meanwhile, the economic situation of so much of the country is going to get worse. People are going to go broke and lose houses and be evicted and need food like more and more. And it's already begun.
Oh no, it's pretty. I mean, if somebody wanted to say like we were on the path to a revolution based in like economic need and whatnot, I mean, you can see the way that goes. Like even if we get to a place of having a vaccine or treatment, if we're not making that universal, if we're not giving that to everyone as a free thing, and it becomes something that only a certain group of the country can afford, you're going to end up with like, all right, the wealthy will get the vaccine. They'll then feel fine. They're going to place more demands on everyone else because, hey, there's a vaccine. You should be back at work. You should be doing X, Y, and Z. You should be. Wow, those people will not be able to afford the vaccine. So then the deaths are going to rise, but it's not going to affect the wealthiest. And if it's not affecting the wealthiest, the politicians are not going to feel any urge to do anything to help because their donors are all safe and secure. And I mean, we're just download your guillotine instructions right now because we are fully on that path. Like, get ready,
Yeah.
don't be caught unawares. I mean, it's you can easily see that route going, which is incredibly depressing. Because what is it, what can we do to stop it outside of
Well, you know what we can do more? We can vote.
oh, I feel
That's
like I
the
tried
one
that
and only
once.
thing we can do.
I tried it once, I
No.
think, and it
I mean,
didn't
of
work.
course I am parodying the smug answer of,
Oh, I love that answer.
online. Just like,
No, no, no.
okay, well, yeah, all right. That's sort of a given. I vote, but at this point, you know, that is a cruel,
Oh, it's the
just
worst.
asshole answer. It's like,
It's
what
also
do
the
you do for
worst.
Black Lives Matter? Vote. It's like, yeah, we did vote. We vote. Look at all the places with Democrats running cities that are
Right.
absolutely, running. Their cops are running riot and just beating and gassing people, and it's run by Democrats. And so, like,
Yeah.
who do we
And
vote for now? Oh, we can't
we
vote
look at,
for somebody other than a Democrat. That's not
don't throw
cool.
your vote away. You can't do
Yeah,
that. That's just a vote for Donald Trump, which
yeah.
is always the funniest thing to me.
Donald
A vote
Trump
for a
for
third party is a
mayor
vote
of
for Trump.
Chicago, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, and then we're up against, unfortunately, I hated this. I said this last podcast that it looked like McGrath was going to win. And then the next day I was so excited because I thought I was totally going to be proven wrong. And I was very excited to come on here and be like, I was wrong. Never listen to me. And then she won, which sucks in
Amy
Kentucky.
McGrath, yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. Amy McGrath in Kentucky. And so, I mean, that's to me very much like a go vote. But, the Democratic Party might put a ton of money into an establishment candidate who's definitely not going to change anything. So even if you do try to get out there to get a progressive in a primary, you're
yeah.
probably going to be shut down on that. And, I mean, so it's.
Do you have any? I know we describe the problems well and at great length, and it is satisfying to
Mm,
to just like
yeah,
lay it out there. Do
yeah.
you have any like feeling of an emerging solution or a hope about this? I mean, I have not a lot, but
Well, I do because there is so much more attention being placed on it now than ever, and I do as
the
well
sorry, the
see
it being what? Just the
the circumstance we're in terms of
okay.
like two parties being pretty useless fundamentally.
Mhm.
And another thing that is, I don't know, I mean, like, I find it a little bit hopeful is when I look at the people in 2016 that were just really, or 2015, all in for like Hillary as a very, who like, not people, I mean, there's groups of people who loved her because she represented something in terms of being a woman, and like, and she brought a lot of empowerment, and I respect all of that. But there were lots of people as well who just felt that like the established, she's done this, she knows it, she's got experience, and we just need more of that. And you know, look, we have to work with the Republicans, and like, who still had that kind of mentality and were all in it for her. And I have seen a lot of them move way left, like
Mhm.
who are just, who were all in for Hillary in 2015, 2016, and now are very like, fuck the establishment. Like, maybe they still hate Bernie for their own personal reasons, but like, they recognize that there is a problem with the way we've been doing things, and they recognize that the establishment is not coming to help them, and they are pulling and working for more progressive candidates, especially locally. And that is something that I find very hopeful. And
Mhm.
I do see still progressives winning these primaries, not all of them, obviously, but like enough to believe that there is a momentum. And I just, you know, it's like, first there's one, then there's three, then there's seven, then there's
Mhm.
13. Like, it's, and I feel that that is the sort of pattern that we're on. We are building towards that. So, I mean, I don't know, we could end the world before we get there to the full tipping point, but
Mhm.
like, you know, if we don't blow it up, maybe there's maybe
Yeah.
there's hope. Which I suppose is maybe not the most helpful thing if you're just going on the world not ending, but like,
Look, we'll take what we could get, you know.
yeah.
I
And
have long been or I have said this about myself, and then recently I was re-examining it, that I am kind of a short-term pessimist, but ultimately a long-term optimist, and I don't know what that is rooted in.
mm-hmm,
I will say that there's a lot of worst-case scenarios in my lifetime, which has been longer than yours, that have not like played out.
right.
Thankfully, that doesn't mean they can't, but I do remember being a young person during the Reagan era, and thinking like, these are the final years of the planet. Like, this is like the craziest old moron in charge, and a bunch of really, you know, diabolical people who work for him. They just keep pushing things to the brink, and like, you know, it did feel like nuclear war was just like a hair away. And it's
Yeah.
not to say that bad things can't still happen in a, but I have learned to doubt the voice in my head that says, well, the worst thing that can happen always will happen. um, but every now and then you do need to see a little bit of a hopeful thing pop up to, you know,
Right.
give you that feeling of long-term optimism. And I will admit that, um, not admit, but I will agree with you that like the little trickle of progressive candidates getting past the gate, I
Yeah.
guess, has been hopeful. And then there are other things that are, I don't know, more abstract and anecdotal. Like, I really feel like Black Lives Matter. Well, this isn't even anecdotal, really, because it's been polled that they're like,
Yeah.
the approval of the concept, the idea, the movement of
Right.
Black Lives Matter is just has so much more approval than it did like in 2016,
Oh
when
yeah. And
when
it's
like
going up month
everybody
to
was
month
running
now.
away from it.
Yeah, no, I'm week to week. I guess I shouldn't say month to month, but it is still, it is increasing weekly. There, it's gaining momentum right now, which is fantastic. And also, you
Hmm.
know, it's hard to go by polling in general, but it's still like a nice little thing to see. Um,
Have you, like, I also feel like this is absolutely anecdotal, you know, in terms of my own experience, but it does feel like people that I used to talk to, notably my older parents, who would not even go near that idea years ago, now like concede, yeah, there's something there, you know, and they're old conservatives and they really don't
right.
give any ground easily. And I hear it from other people too. It's like, yeah, this is fucked up. Like, this is, you know, the more we see of this, the more we have to come to the truth that, this has been something we have let happen for far too
Right.
long.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's true. I was actually so we don't we don't have TV. We just stream like Netflix at home.
Yeah.
But here now we have like a TV where you change channels and all that sort of stuff. And you get commercials, which
Back
we're
to the
not used to.
1970s.
It's a whole new thing. My kids get like obsessed with commercials because they never really
That's
encountered them. So they're
hilarious.
just like I was walking because it went to commercial and I like walked across to get something and they're screaming at me like, "You're blocking the TV." I was like, "It's a commercial. We want to see it." Like it's huge for them. So they had Nickelodeon or Nick Jr., I guess it was. And last night they did like a full hour of Nickelodeon Junior Race and Unity. It was like hosted by Alicia Keys, and she was talking to various people. She talked to the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and she was talking to kids who have experienced racism, kids who are doing something within Black Lives Matter movement, who are leading events and fundraising and like just standing up for their friends and the whole thing. And my almost 9-year-old was like, he wanted to watch it. He was all in, which, I mean, I don't know, he's a kid. I would assume he'd want a cartoon or whatever, but he was really, really excited to watch it. And I also expected, because I also have the conservative older parents, I expected like at least an eye roll or something from like my dad. None of that. And it was really like it was great to me. I've had these conversations with my kids, but like as a parent, like you never know what they're hearing, what they're not, like if they care, like I don't know. It's really, really hard to know what the takeaway is. But this was like really captured his attention. And like I went to the bathroom and came back in and it was like, what's racial profiling? And so we sat and we talked about it and went to go get a water. And what does biracial mean? Okay. So we sat and we talked about it and like all these sort of things. And he was like outraged at the idea of racial profiling. Like we've talked about slavery. Like, again, this is not new stuff, but this was really getting through to him and he was really angry about it. And like, just seeing that was hopeful to me.
Yeah.
Like, these are not, I'm sure I didn't know these things at 8, 9. Like I didn't have anyone around me telling me, and I didn't have any sort of access to information immediately in my grasp that would have brought these concepts to me. Like, so I'm sure this was not something I would have would have known. And so like, just knowing that that was something that he was seeing and he was interested in, he cared and he wanted to do something,
Bless him.
made me feel really
That's
like,
awesome.
all right, this is good. We're moving in the right direction. Like just having these conversations with young kids, with young white kids who, no matter like, they're oblivious, was good. And that, yeah, I mean, it's very anecdotal and very small, but I guess I thought, well, this is, Nick Jr. And right before this program was SpongeBob SquarePants. Like how many kids just kept it on, and
Yeah.
were exposed to something that they wouldn't have otherwise seen. I was happy. So, if the planet exists, not that I ever want to like pin something on like the younger generation will do it. They'll take care of it. I hate that shit too. But, again, just slowly getting better and also a good reminder of like why we have to keep fighting too. Like,
yep. Because I think just like I think we talked about a couple of episodes ago, like the thing with same-sex marriage, it did feel like there was this Mount Everest to climb for forever, that like it was never going to be completely scaled. And then all of a sudden it was. And then all of the politicians who were cautiously framing ways to not agree with it before that, and then before that were absolutely no way.
Pro-family.
But they got behind the parade. They tried to lead the parade, I guess is the way to put it.
Right.
But the parade was happening whether they were there or not, So I'm hoping that things like that will happen on a number of fronts. Where I think it's really going to be more difficult is anything, again, to do with money.
Yup.
and the capitalist structure, because
Mm-hmm.
we already have an overwhelming approval of Medicare for all, and yet there's very few people, I should say, anywhere near power who will just acknowledge that and act on it, you know.
Right. That's right. It's the money that is nonstop the problem.
That's the
And
final frontier.
it really is. And it's so frustrating too, because it's like all of the social stuff is not all of it. This is not the right way to put it, but a lot of the social issues are exacerbated by wealthy people hoping to split apart the non-wealthy and
Hmm.
pit them against each other so that we don't come storming their castles. I mean, that's like, there's so much of that happening. Not to say that that's the entirety of it, but they certainly utilize that whenever they can. And so, it's that same thing, right? Like there's already a class war. We've just been on the losing side for so long, we've
Right.
never really noticed it. Like, but that it's already happening. We just need to start fighting back.
I also think the artificial I don't know what it would be, like splitting apart of class war distinctions and ID politics doesn't help anybody. But I think it is I think it's necessary to do in, in particular cases. Like Black
Mhm.
Lives Matter should, it exists as a thing that is related to capitalism and class warfare and the economic structure we have now, for sure. But it's a sort of what caused what
Oh yeah.
puzzle on some level, because yeah, you can be I don't know, like uh, uh, upper middle class or rich doctor, a
Oh yeah.
black person who is a doctor, and get pulled over and treated like they are
Yeah,
not
get the
immune
cops
to
called on
that.
you for going into your house. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's like documented again and again. So the class thing doesn't really address that, but they are cheek by jowl in the way that they sort of feed each other in this country. And I'm not sophisticated enough to really put it together, but I think people are starting to like try at least to do a good faith, like, all right, both of these things exist, or all these things exist at once. Let's find out, their intersectionality, I guess, for lack of a
Oh yeah,
less
absolutely.
academic word that I don't even know I'm using right.
We'll let you have it if that's what you need to
I am
use
smart
with your
person.
virtue signaling or your
Yeah,
intellect signaling, whatever it
I'm
is.
signaling.
You're signaling the
I'm
important
not
thing.
doing anything valuable. I'm signaling.
Yeah, no, I mean, racism exists. And racism, look, I think if you just had a room full of uh, 20 white people who only ever knew that white people existed, they never had any concept of anyone who's, you would have racism based on, like, they would invent it based on some tiny pigmentation or whatever the heck they'd want.
Hmm.
Like, that's going to exist. There's the othering that is going to happen. So I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case. But um, the way in which I think that they are related is simply that I do think that the wealthy like to lob that whenever they see people getting along too well against them. Like basically, I feel as though when the wealthy feel like the class issue is kind of people are noting it,
Hmm.
they try to throw out other distractors, and racism is a big one that they like to use. And usually, I mean not usually, but certainly on the conservative side, they use it in that like xenophobic and racist way of like, no, 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 the problem isn't us. We're not keeping you from capital. We're
Hmm.
not paying you enough. We're not doing anything like that. The problem is you have all these foreigners coming in and taking your jobs. The
Hmm.
problem is affirmative action means that, you didn't get this opportunity and it was given to those people. Like they use those as ways to try and distract from the like, no, actually you have all the money and you're writing
Hmm.
all the laws so that you continue to have all the money and you're not paying people enough. Like that's where I think they kind of
And I think in America, more there is no taking apart the threads easily, because it's
no.
just hundreds of years of interwoven racism and, well,
Well,
chattel
slavery and
slavery. Our whole economic
capitalism. Yeah.
system is based on the enslavement of other human beings. And so
Right.
they needed to be dehumanized to justify that. And who knows what anybody believes, deep in their heart of hearts when they are enslaving somebody, except you have to dehumanize somebody to justify it. And then that just gets baked into the whole culture as it has in our country, to the point where, yeah, there's no, I shouldn't say there are very few white people who would go on record now and say, like, we need to bring back slavery. Although, as I'm saying this, I'm sure, like, oh, no, there are probably plenty.
Yeah, more than we want to
More than
think are there.
I'd want to believe. But I also feel like they are not willing to then like make the connection between that and the fact that, when I was growing up, my parents casually, they didn't use the N-word, but they, casually referred to Black people as lazy, or implied that it was their own fault because of their culture and all that. And I'm not saying that, they were uniquely bad. They were a mixed bag, like a lot of white people of their generation. But the origin of that is like generations before them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way of justifying the oppression, including really solid economic oppression, like zoning laws and redlining,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like when people think that, like, oh, we turned off slavery and that just reset the system and then everybody was equal. It's like, come on, like, just read a tiny bit of one, like, grade school history book and you'll be
Right.
disappointed with that.
Well, I mean, just in terms of slavery alone, when they freed, and my history is bad here, and I'm trying to make it better every day, but it's my understanding that slave owners were paid when they freed the slaves, which
Yeah,
gave this infusion of capital to like wealthy white people. I mean, it's just like, hey, we're going to have this race, but you know what? You were already starting ahead, but maybe not far enough ahead. How about you go down a couple more blocks
we're
there?
going to pay,
Like,
we're going to end slavery and we're going to pay. And, like, the Black people are like, oh, well, it's been a horrible couple of centuries and you've killed most of my family, but at least you can give me some money now. It's like, oh, we're not paying you guys. We're paying the
right,
guys who enslaved you. Like,
right,
they're the
right.
ones we owe. Yep.
Yeah, no.
It's
They're
America.
going through something, all right?
Yeah.
Like, think about them.
Think that sucks for them, man.
It's
Free,
rough.
free
They're,
work.
they're gonna have to clean their own clothes. It's gonna be a terrible thing. Like, have some empathy.
Uh,
Yeah.
that feels like there is a constant version of that same
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that
vibe
attitude has
going on.
persisted. That attitude
What about the rich
absolutely
people?
has persisted. Can't you see? They're going to go through something. They need
What
help.
a,
Like,
what about the most powerful people in the world? How would you feel if you were them?
have
And
you done enough to make Jeff Bezos feel secure and happy today? Think
uh,
about it. He's got a lot on his shoulders. It's mostly money, but it's weighing him down, all right? Like, do
sure,
something.
there are Krugerrands that those can be a little energy. I tell
Oh,
you. Well, I don't know if I don't know. I go back and forth on whether I believe that, like, humans are evolving towards something better or greater. I know that there are some spiritual practices that sort of endorse a version of that, and some new age stuff. But I do feel like as we go on, and this is the optimism talking here, and I'll
all
get
right.
off
Let's
of
hear
it
some
soon
optimism
enough.
then.
It just feels like as generations go on, that some things just wither and die. And I know they are replaced by more insidious versions of things like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the overt clan type of racism becomes the Southern strategy or whatever.
Right.
Um, but I don't know. I struggle with this. Some part of me just wants to believe, oh, it's all, thinks that it's like, it's always just finding a
The
new place
moral
to
arc of the
hide.
universe bends
Yeah.
towards justice feeling like,
Yeah, I go between that and just feeling like, well, they're just finding shitty,
yeah,
sneakier ways to
it just
hide the
looks like it
sinister.
is, but
Yeah,
it's optical illusion there.
but if you look at, like, my kids coming up, and being able to vote within 10 years, both of them, um, well, less than that, and your kids
Yeah.
coming up shortly after that, it's like, I don't think they're going to perpetuate the same thing. And it is my fervent hope that it's not just like some disguised version of something. And the demographics are changing too. It's like you're
Right.
just not, you have kids who grew up in more racially mixed areas. My kids, much more than I did in Catholic school in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know, it is just part of their school from day one is to not be just a bunch of white kids together. Um, yeah, I mean, and sexual identity stuff, it's not a big deal anymore. So I don't
Right.
know if that extends to the economic justice of this country ever, but I do know that like it's not that people don't want it. So if
Yeah.
any hope for this country at all, it's going to be like, well, giving people closer to what they need and want, and not just what they are allowed.
I think a lot of that is just making sure that we are doing our very best to demand as much transparency as possible from everything and everyone, and as much, and that we are demanding, um, I want to say like demanding education, and that's not quite right, but that we absolutely shut down those who are creating structures to keep people out,
Hmm.
which a lot of politics has been. And a lot of like, I mean, that's the world that I live in is taxes. And I mean, that was just built to keep people out. That was just
Yeah.
built to like tell a normal person, this is too complicated for you. Leave it to us. We have degrees. It's numbers. You hate numbers. We've told you you hate numbers. You don't worry. We've got it. Like it was built around that. And so as long as we keep demanding and saying like that's bullshit, what are you actually doing? What does this actually mean? And just
Mm.
in like sharing it as widely as possible, then I think that there is hope, because I mean that is another area that I see like in testing and polling, that the moment people are given information about stuff, they know what to back or what not to back. They know like
Hmm.
where people fall, but so much gets put into trying to muddle it and keep people from even knowing. So yeah, so I mean I think that like the broad social stuff that we see now is only going to be better, right? Like if we look at where we are now from the 50s, better, I
Hmm.
suppose, and that's going to get better. But like the policy stuff, that's where we have to like push on making sure that that people know what they're talking about, that like stuff is actually being shared in ways that people can understand, and that um, people are given more opportunities to be educated on this stuff that politicians want to like keep hidden and obscure. I
Hmm.
think I think that matters. Sorry, that's like more like I've gone into my work pitches
No,
now.
no, I like
That's
that because it does connect to the fact that I think one of the ways that we make progress collectively is like trying a bunch of testing out a bunch of ideas or arguments over time. And
hmm
it's not to suggest it's all the marketplace of ideas, but it's like what you said a little while ago. Um, 2016, there were a lot of people who kind of bought a certain like the most qualified and the Democrat. That's what we need. That'll and I think there are far fewer people who believe that at this point,
yeah.
just because it's been tested and found wanting and it's been exposed. And it's not specifically about Hillary Clinton or any one person, really. It's
hmm
about uh, the sheer kind of inability of Democrats to get around the Trump years in a way that helps people, that really helps people and really fights him in an effective way. I mean, despite the, the little skirmishes here and there, it's been pretty shocking to watch how much they have either been steamrolled or allowed themselves to be steamrolled, depending on your suspicious point of view, or,
hmm
so some arguments that a couple of years ago, or some framing that would have been effective some years ago, like 4 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, just
hmm
doesn't, like, people just smell the bullshit now. And it's like, no, and I have faith that that is what has happened with healthcare. I mean, and it's experiential
Yeah.
too. People get
Well, right.
unable to afford it and get their house taken away enough. and they're just like, this doesn't work.
One more time. I'm going to
Yeah.
go through it one more time. I'm sure this time it'll be just fine.
I'm going to be stripped of all financial resources in my house and my life just a couple more times, and maybe we'll revisit. We'll circle back and revisit.
Got to give these things a fair shot. You know, you don't want to rush into anything.
That is why when you hear, like even if people are not thinking in political terms like you or I do, which is maybe a little too much.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Yeah, it is.
Teach us how not to do that, please.
But when they hear things like, I want to like strengthen the ACA and stuff like that, it's like it rings a lot more hollow than it did in 2012 or whatever, because it's like we're 8 years later and I lost my house and, my mom died of cancer in debt. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, people, unfortunately, recognize that. I would rather that everyone just went like, you know what, when I think about it, this makes more sense. But yeah, no, a lot of it is unfortunately experiential. And unfortunately, they're creating more experiences for everyone to have. Also, I keep sitting on this baby doll and it's like...
that was a visual shocker. That was, you suddenly became a prop comedian. It's like, is that
sorry?
Hi, talking Tina.
Playing with it down here out of sight, and eventually had to pull it up.
Is that yours?
It's not my doll.
Okay. I think it is your doll.
It's not my doll. It's not my doll. I swear. I have not done that in a really long time, and I'm off the doll.
You had actual babies. You don't need that.
No. This is my niece's doll.
Ah.
Yes. That's a weird.
Well, 2 special guest stars.
The other thing, though, that I realized I'm really traumatized is like while I was just fidgeting, I was doing this a lot. Like I was like masking the baby doll. Like,
oh
this.
No!
Yeah.
Wow. The body language says it all.
I know.
Get COVID, little baby. Oh, God.
You're so tiny. Don't spread it, leg rat. You're cute but deadly.
Don't go to the grocery store and start throwing stuff at other customers, little baby.
That's right. That's
little
not
baby
acceptable.
Karen.
Little baby Karen. Oh God. And there's at least a 3-year-old that got in before Karen became a name that you didn't use anymore. Like there's definitely a 3-year-old Karen out there. And
it is your responsibility to un-Karen yourself, child.
The last Karen. It's going to be a great Disney movie someday.
Unicorns, Karens.
She pulls entitlement from the stone.
We should probably wrap it up. This is about the usual time.
You can tell I start getting loopy, That's
start pulling out baby dolls from
we got props, we got things. What else we got here? We got a little dog. we can do a whole play.
I have a picture of SCTV cast signed by
that's
Dave
much
Thomas.
better.
Yeah.
That's much better.
And nothing much else here. Like endless chords and shit.
Okay, all right. Less exciting, but definitely I would trade you that photo for a horse and a husky kissing.
That is I remember that like collection, I think, when my kids were little. Like my daughter had a bunch of those dogs.
I don't know where they came from. There's
I kept buying them long after she was not interested.
That's what I've done with my kids in Matchbox cars because they're like 99 cents or something. So I'm like, oh, this will make you happy, and it's very cheap, and it does make them happy for exactly as long as like, I don't know, a French fry makes me happy. Like one moment of like, oh, this is great. Ah, fuck, this is not good for me. I shouldn't be doing this. But for 1 second, it's good.
Matchbox cars. Wow, they're still going. I collected those when I was a kid. They're from England, right?
There's some here. We got some of those. I know. Are they from England?
Is that a Hot Wheel?
This is Hot Wheels. It's a Hot Wheels. You're right.
Very, very different, Maura.
I didn't know. I didn't know my brands. Oh my God.
Know your tiny car brands.
I don't know my tiny car brands. I don't know. They're just
all right. Next week,
small.
It's going to be an all tiny car brand show. But in the meantime, I hope you have fun with your family. I'm glad I got to meet them and their various dolls.
You certainly met my mother, who is, just peak peak mom, peak
Big mom.
70-something-year-old mom, just toddling through.
Going to the wine, taking the grandkids to the winery.
Especially after like there's no reason for her to be in here, and I said, "Hey, I'm doing something in this one room. Can we just keep everyone out of that room?" So that is the time designated that she had to come in.
Boundaries do not
Peak mom.
exist in that
Yeah, no, it's
generation.
they really
All
don't.
right, Maura, have fun in the Poconos.
Thank
Is
you.
Mount Airy Lodge still there?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's here. I think there's, is that the one with the champagne
Yes.
yeah, the
With
champagne hot
the
tub.
hearts shaped hot tubs, and then the champagne glass that you go up a little ladder, and you're in a hot tub.
Absolutely.
It's like a
I
boiling martini that you
don't
sit
know
in.
who that's for. I've like
Honeymooners.
still, is it? Is it
Yeah,
honeymooners?
it used to be a big honeymoon.
Or is
That's
it
how
you like
they,
have a really trashy affair? Like,
or
this
that,
is,
but it used to be, at least in the New York area, it was specifically marketed for honeymooners from like the tri-state area.
I see.
Especially like, your Jersey and Brooklyn types. Let's get classy and go sit in a martini glass.
What is classier than being the bubbles of the martini
We're gonna
itself? Like,
be the
what?
cocktail.
I'm it. Drink me in.
Drink me
That's,
in. I love you, baby. All right, Maura, have a good time. We will check in
thank
next
you.
week.
Sounds good.